Welcome to Voice with Vielka, the podcast dedicated to the ongoing quest for finding how to best teach kids to sing with confidence. I'm your host, Vielka, and I'll share my experiences as a performer, educator, founder, and mother for the last 20 years here in the heart of New York City. Thank you for joining me as I share with you the amazing people, practices, and talking points to help us grow together as singers, educators, entrepreneurs, and human beings. Have you stopped to ask yourself why it is that you do what you do? That is, why sing? Why teach singing? Why teach kids? Why teach kids to sing? And finally, why listen to a podcast about teaching kids to sing? Hi, I'm Vielka, and welcome to Voice with Vielka, where we are here to talk about all things voice, and really my specialty of pre-K through grade 12 voice education. So, why start with why? Well, when you start with why, you really have a guiding light that will help you make choices that will ultimately be the most fulfilling for you. You know, in my last over 20 years teaching music education here in New York City, I've seen some incredible mentors and teachers who were so inspiring and inspired just thousands of children and teachers. It's been incredible, remarkable, and I've learned so much from them. Sadly, along the way, I've also met many teachers, music teachers, who were really burnt out, who really found themselves in a space where they weren't happy with what they were doing, with who they were teaching. And it was really striking and sad. And as I started to do some research for my own teacher training in terms of where's the path for teachers? How do we go from being a starting, beginning teacher and really growing towards that mentor status, where you're inspired and inspiring others? What I learned in the literature was that some people had actually described not just that upward spiral, but a fork in the road. And the other fork was really a downward trend that led to burnout. And we know that so many teachers burn out. So my hope for you is that if you're here and you're listening, that you will take a few minutes here to really explore your why. And maybe you've already visited this and this is something that will just be a refresher, a reminder. And maybe this is something that's new territory for you and will kind of cause a little stirring up, a little rumble, a little mixing up of feelings and bring up more questions than answers. And I would invite you to just join me for the journey, see how it shakes out, keep an open mind, and see what it brings. Yeah? So I first wanted to start with Simon Sinek. Simon wrote the book Start With Why, and although I've only been familiar with Simon's work for the last couple of years, thank you to Bob who introduced me to him, and I highly recommend you check out his TED Talk and read the book and just soak up Simon. He's just incredibly enthusiastic, really guiding light, I think, in this work around thinking and leadership, which is what we do as teachers, right? Check him out and listen to his ideas here around why to start with why. I'm going to give you a short clip that'll give you a lot of insight here where he really talks about Apple Company as being an example here of why it's obvious and what makes a difference in terms of starting with your why. In fact, he prefaces it by saying, most people start with the what they do. And if you're at a cocktail party or meeting someone, it's like, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I teach voice. Kind of end of story. That's what I do. But if you start going in sort of these concentric circles that Simon draws, on the outer one is the what, and then a layer in is the how you do it, where he says some people understand the how, some people don't. And in the center of the concentric circles is the why you do it, where fewer people really understand their why, but those that do and have that as their guiding light, you're just, make a long story short, going to be happier. You're going to be happier with your choices. But let's go ahead and take a really quick clip here from Simon Sinek talking about why we start with why.
Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Although this clip is a bit salesy, what I would say is that it really speaks to when you have that clarity of purpose as your why, then you're making decisions that are always going to go back to that value, the values that are important to you of your why, your purpose. So I invite you, whether this is totally new territory for you and it brings up more questions than answers and it kind of muddles things up in your mind and makes you confused, that's actually a really great thing, right? That's how we grow, is by going outside of our comfort zone, doing something different, right? And shaking things up a bit. Or if this is something that is in your wheelhouse that you've thought a lot about and you know what your why is and your purpose, let this be a little refresher for you. Certainly, this is something where with hiring my teachers and with doing my teacher training, really explore and ask my teachers to explore why. Why are you here? I really want people who believe in the vision, in the dream, that we have that shared perspective and commonality, because it will affect everything else, that ripple effect, right? So I appreciate that that's what Simon is really talking about. And let's dive in. Let's dive in. So, why sing? Now, another really great thought exercise here, which I did not create, and I don't know who started it, but I want to give credit to whoever that person is out there, is to really dig into the whys by doing 6 or 7 layers deep on the why. So what I mean is, first we'll ask, why sing? And you're going to come up with your reason. So why sing? Why do you sing? I can tell you that for me, it really started when I was in 5th grade, and I was in the chorus at school, and I remember my first solo. My first solo, oh my goodness, I was so nervous. I got up on the stage. There was the spotlight shining down on me where I couldn't see the audience. It was just the white light. And I really loved the song. And I really loved my 2 lines of the song that I got to sing by myself. And when it was my turn to sing, I just felt like I was able to connect with something greater beyond me. It was almost as if my voice wasn't my voice. The microphone sort of sucks the sound, very live mic, kind of sucked the sound out of me in a way and put it out there. And it just felt like there was that hush of the audience. There was that silence. And it felt like there was something greater, something beyond me, where it was bigger than me, that I was sharing my heart, my soul, my words, my song, and that I could feel the audience's energy also meeting me in the middle, and that together it was this moment of connection and communication and expression. And ever since then, I've been hooked. It was just magical. And it also really transformed who I was, to find my identity as a singer, to find my voice, literally and figuratively, helping me grow from being a shy outcast, really felt like I didn't fit in where I was with my peers, to finding my voice, finding my power, and really sending me on my way across the country from California to New York City to get brave, learn how to be courageous, take risks, and make connections with people from all over the world, essentially through my voice. So this is why I love to sing. And we could dig deeper, but I think within that, I gave you a lot of layers. In other words, why sing? It felt good. I enjoyed it. I had this connection. Why is it important to have this connection? Well, it helps me feel like I'm part of humanity and that we have this shared, you know, relationship between everyone. And why is that important? Because ultimately, even though there are so many places that are different in this wide spectrum of things, we're all together on this tiny little blue planet. And I believe that, we have more things in common than we do apart. And that coming together through singing, through song, really helps us each find our power and find our unique expression, which helps all of humanity. So I know that's a mouthful and it's a lot, and that's just my own why, and that's my journey. Yours can look completely different than mine, and that's fabulous. We're each different. So take the why, sing, and do some layers, do some digging, and it'll help you know whether this is the path for you to continue to sing, to not continue to sing, in what way you like to sing, all of that. The next question was why teach? So for me, when I was starting to teach, in the very, very beginning, honestly, I think I had a couple of reasons at the time of why teach. And these things do change over time. So it's one of those things like setting a goal where you want to kind of check in over different periods of your time and ask why again, to just check in with yourself and see if you're where you're wanting to be in your happy place. So why teach? When I was a senior at Manhattan School of Music, studied classical voice there, I got to be part of the outreach program and start my own choir in Harlem. And when I was there, I remember I was conducting the choir, leading them in song, and all of a sudden there was just this moment that was like a light bulb. It was an aha. And that aha was that I loved using my voice to help other people find their voice. And that was my first real clear moment of why to teach. So that's why I teach. And there were additional reasons too, as I was graduating and the thought of real life was right around the corner. I remember thinking, well, seems to me like most professional musicians teach at some point in their career, and it would be nice to know what I'm doing. So I think I'll go and get my master's degree, delay real life for a little bit longer, and figure out how to teach. And that in the process of learning to teach, that I would better understand how to sing myself and how to be a better musician myself. That was my thought process, that I could, by doing it and learning how to teach it, I would be able to better do it myself. So these were my whys. And again, just take a moment here to think about, why are you teaching? Why are you thinking about teaching? What is it about teaching that speaks to you? And actually, what you'll find for me as we continue forward on this podcast journey is I really prefer the word educate. And I prefer the word educate because Eric Booth introduced me to the etymology of the word, which is to draw out. So educate means to draw out rather than imparting wisdom, where it's sort of like teacher on student. This is really about the student expressing themselves, coming out with what it is they inherently know and drawing out of them through guiding questions, what it is that we're trying to show them, on this journey of education. So these are some reasons why I love to teach. And certainly, now that I'm at where I'm at now, it's really about, obviously, I left out of this before, you have to make some money too, right? So there is income that's part of it. There's really a lot of impact. And for me, the impact of teaching is that it helps people find their confidence and really be who they are by finding their voice and finding their power through their voice. So for me, that's why I love to teach. What about why teach singing? Well, I just kind of answered that, but take a moment for yourself. Why teach singing? What is it about it for you that speaks to you? You know, you could just sing without teaching singing. So why? Why do you do it? And why teach kids? So this is a big one for me. And I know a lot of voice teachers don't teach kids and haven't felt comfortable teaching kids. And you might be here because you're curious about it, but don't really feel comfortable, not sure how you'd go about it. And I totally get you. This has really been the theme of my career, has been an organic process from being that little girl on stage, really finding her power through singing, to coming full circle to answer the question, why? Why is there so much controversy, so much uncomfortableness, so much unknown around how to teach kids to sing or if we should teach kids to sing? And so for me, why teach kids is twofold. One, it's to answer that question that has been with me since I was little, where I was asking for voice lessons at a very young age and told that I had to wait until I was 16 to start taking lessons. Otherwise, it could harm my voice. So, diligent student that I am, I did that. I waited, I started training, and then found out that I had to break down a lot of these habits in order to build new habits in place of them, because of course kids sing. And so I had been continuing to sing and just doing the best I could on my own without a guide. So one of the reasons why I teach kids is because I want to be the teacher I wish I had as a little girl. So being that teacher for kids, I think it holds a very special place in my heart. And that's why I teach kids. And I also say that I teach kids because I love kids. I think it would be near impossible to teach kids if I didn't love kids. And I have sort of two different mentors' comments in my ear as I share with you this idea about teaching children. One is Dr. Sylvia Golson, who I was fortunate enough to be her teaching assistant when she was leading the program when I was getting my master's of music education at NYU. And she had us in a class, it was, I want to say, philosophy of music education type of class. And I remember her describing sort of off the cuff, that she had been in so many meetings about music education and teaching and pedagogy and all this, and that no one had said the word children. And it really stuck with me. It stuck with me how much she valued children and how she really had that as her why, her guiding light, and how that her work really was going to be filtered through the lens of the child and the child first. So that really had an impact on me and is something that I have definitely kept in my why and as a purpose and a guideline. The other voice in my ear is actually also from NYU, Elaine Gates. Elaine Gates was a bit of a legend there. She had been teaching there for so many years. She taught out in Long Island at USDAN, and so many things about Elaine that were really special. But what I remember is her sharing with us, if you don't love children, do not do this. And that also had an impact. It was like, you don't go into music education, for kids. You don't go into this for the money. You don't go into this for that reason. It's not enough. Like, let me save your time now. Only go into it if you love children. That really has to be your number one. And that also equally stuck with me because, of course, those of us who were trained as performers, it's, makes sense, right? Because performers do teach and it's a way to help make a living. And so there's that, which I should just throw this in the mix, that I personally made a choice as well that I never wanted to waitress again. Nothing against waiting tables or servers. In fact, I have the utmost respect for you because I did it myself and it was not my cup of tea. And I just remember thinking, yeah, this is not for me. I'm not happy here and I will never do this again. And part of my pivot was finding teaching, finding education, and really putting together my love of singing, my love for learning, and my love for children. So this is my happy place. And that's really what I've been doing, which leads us to the next question, which is why teach kids to sing? I've spoken a bit about this already, but what is it for you? What is it about teaching kids to sing that does it for you? And the more you can gain clarity around these answers, the more it's going to help inform your work. And it's going to help you wake up in the morning with a little pep in your step and get you to where you want to be. It's also going to help you be able to better articulate what it is, who you are and your story, your whys, so that you can share it with your audiences, with your families that you teach, so that you can better pair with each other, right? Because each person has their own unique gifts to share, and finding that match, I think, those of us here, we know, right? You know how special it is to find that teacher that really gets you, that person who's in the room with you, really seeing you, hearing you, validating you, and really helping you to level up from wherever you are. So why teach kids to sing? And for me now, the question has been, why create a podcast? Why create a podcast around teaching kids to sing and around voice? And for me, it's because I had a realization, and I want to give a huge shout out to Nikki Loney, who is from The Full Voice and the Full Voice podcast. She has an incredible podcast and really wonderful music materials. And I was totally binge listening to her podcast. And this was, my gosh, many years back now. I can't remember when Nikki started her podcast, but I found it pretty quickly after. And I took one winter break vacation time. And I literally was just like, had the headphones on and was just binging, like how some people binge Netflix. I was just binging Nikki Loney's The Full Voice. And there's so many treasures and goodies and inspiration. I love all the activities that she thinks of and the different interviews she does. And the fact that finally there was another voice out there who was focused on teaching kids to sing. Now, I say this because, let's see, I started teaching, oh my goodness, 1997-ish. And at that time, I was the odd person out in the voice teacher room. Everybody else was, teaching adults. Nobody else in the New York City associations that I was a part of was focusing on kids and in that room as a voice teacher. And in fact, I was met with the same pervading myth that I had been a part of growing up, which was I thought you had to wait until after puberty to start taking formal voice. And doesn't that damage the voice and all of that? And luckily, I was in one of these voice teacher meetings where Dr. Peek Woo was there, amazing. And I said, let's ask the doctor. And he, as I was holding my breath for the validation, he said, oh no, that doesn't harm kids' voice to learn how to sing, and really the big idea here is that you can hurt or help a voice at any age. And it's really about, that match of what the student needs and how you help them with where they are. So anyhow, going back to Nikki Loney, me binge listening, something happened. I wish I could remember which episode it was, but I had this another light bulb aha moment, which was so much of my frustrations on my journey as a singer, as an educator, as a music educator, as a teaching artist, as a curriculum and assessment writer. So much of the frustration that I had I realized was actually just that there's a lot of lack of knowledge, a lack of resources, a lot of unawareness that is out there, and that there's a huge gap in voice education. And that I had been lucky enough, a combination of luck and a combination of persistence and a lifelong quest. It's something that I really organically kept searching for answers, and I didn't give up. And so, that's what, had me make the road trip, right? From LA out to New York City, to move here, not knowing anybody, to go to school, to find out more about voice and how to sing. And then that led to the teaching, and then teaching led to teaching artistry, and that led to arts administration and teaching and chorus and keyboard and, you know, music teaching in the classroom, and basically everything that you can think of under being a music teacher on the vocal side, I've done. And the really lucky part, doing it with some of the most amazing mentors ever. And that's when I realized, I I've just been soaking up like a little sponge all these ideas for so many years. And I'm so lucky that I've been able to still be here in New York City and take advantage of the incredible mentors here. So, people like, first off, Kodai, the Hungarian composer who created a whole philosophy and approach to music education, getting that training at NYU was the foundation, really incredible. And I have a huge thank you to Dr. Jerry Curlin, who leads that program and really was a game changer in terms of understanding how to build this out. And so many more people that honestly, I'm just going to have to do a podcast as tribute for each one of them. But again, Nikki Loney, light bulb moment, like, oh my gosh, I have all this information and I need to share it. I need to share it because if I don't share it, the other light bulb moment I had was a few years later, and I realized, like, what am I waiting for? Oh my gosh, like, of course I'm still learning and I'm still growing, and every day, still learning something new and adding on. It's an evolution and it's constantly evolving. I'm a lifelong learner, but it's time. It's time to start sharing out. It's time to help others so that you can, as a teacher, as a singer, have a more efficient way to get there, because there is this gap in voice education where we don't have a clear scope and sequence and process of how to teach voice. Voice science has been wonderful, that we can really understand better now how the voice works. And at the same time, there really wasn't, for me at least, a really clear, simple way of how to teach kids to sing. And so I'm creating this podcast to start spreading the word, to start sharing with you the treasures in my life that have really made a difference, in the hopes that I can pay it forward, and that as singers and educators, we can really move the needle here on where we are today and where we have the potential of going. So I hope that you've enjoyed this first episode, thinking about why, finding your why, and I encourage you to take some time and really go there. Keep asking yourself why, and you may not have the answers today, and the answers will certainly change for you, and that's all part of the journey. So thank you again for listening, for being here, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me for this podcast. To learn more about my step-by-step approach to voice education, where I've consolidated 30 years of vocal study into 4 words even a 3-year-old can do, just go to www.vielka.com. That's Vielka.com. Happy singing.